The moment your wife compares you to another man, the marriage already sits on life support. Claire said it with her arms folded beside the kitchen island, her wine glass balanced between red nails like she had rehearsed the sentence for weeks. Jason was more of a real man than you ever were, Ethan. The words landed clean, precise. Sharpened through years of resentment, she finally decided to stop hiding. I stood there in grease-stained work pants from a 14-hour shift at the manufacturing plant, one hand still wrapped around my truck keys, staring at the woman I had spent 16 years building a life around. Claire's face carried that look people get when they believe they've already won the argument before it starts. Calm, detached, certain. She reached into her purse, slid a thick envelope across the marble countertop, and tapped it once with her fingertip. Divorce papers. Prepared in advance. Organized with color-coded tabs. Asset disclosures highlighted in yellow marker. Retirement projections attached in the back. She had planned this long before tonight. I already filed, she said. My attorney says this goes smoother if you cooperate. Attorney. Singular. That detail stuck in my head harder than the insult about Jason. She had lawyers involved before she ever raised her voice at me. That meant strategy. Timeline. Planning. I picked up the packet and flipped through the pages slowly. Claire watched me carefully, measuring every reaction like a trader studying market fluctuations. Joint accounts listed. Mortgage breakdown included. My 401k estimated to the dollar. She even attached projected equity growth on the house over the next 7 years. That level of preparation takes obsession. How long? I asked. Claire exhaled through her nose like she finally reached the end of an exhausting meeting. 6 months since I contacted the lawyer. Longer if you count emotionally. 6 months. During those same 6 months, I replaced the water heater, refinanced her Lexus payment at a lower interest rate, and transferred $12,000 into our savings account after taking overtime shifts every weekend. Claire walked around the island and leaned against the counter beside me. Jason made me feel alive again, she said softly. You make me feel managed. I looked down at the paperwork again. Something felt off. Too polished. Too aggressive for a standard divorce filing. Then I saw it halfway through the financial disclosure packet. A request for temporary exclusive use of the marital home. My house. My garage. My father's restored 1969 Chevy truck sitting under the tarp out back. Claire wanted possession of everything before mediation even started. That meant somebody coached her aggressively. Somebody expected me to react emotionally and move out voluntarily. I kept turning pages. Another detail surfaced. She already opened a separate checking account 3 months ago at First National Bank. The routing number appeared inside one of the attached statements she accidentally included. Balance, $48,212.17. I knew every dollar in our household. That account never passed through our shared finances, which meant Claire had been siphoning money quietly while smiling across dinner tables and asking about vacation plans. My eyes lifted toward her. For the first time that night, her confidence cracked slightly. Tiny movement. Tiny hesitation. She realized I had spotted something she never intended me to notice. Where did the $48,000 come from? I asked calmly. Claire's jaw tightened. That's irrelevant. No, that was the first honest thing in the entire room. Because hidden money changes divorces. Hidden money creates leverage. Hidden money turns emotional breakups into financial warfare. Claire grabbed her wine glass again and looked away for the first time since I walked into the kitchen. Jason told me you'd notice the account eventually, she muttered quietly. The second she said his name again, my phone buzzed inside my pocket. Unknown number. Ohio area code. I pulled it out and read the text message on the screen. Ethan, you need to know Claire and Jason made a huge mistake. Rebecca Hale, CPA. I stared at the text message for a full 10 seconds before replying. Most people think betrayal explodes loud. Real betrayal moves quietly through spreadsheets, account transfers, deleted message, threads, and legal paperwork filed weeks before the victim even senses danger. Rebecca Hale sent another message before I could answer the first one. Claire used Jason to pressure you emotionally. Jason used Claire to access money. They both underestimated how paper trails work. I looked across the kitchen. Claire had shifted into defense mode already, pacing near the sink with her arms tied against her chest, watching my face carefully instead of speaking. Her confidence from 20 minutes earlier had started leaking around the edges. That happens when hidden details surface too early. Who is Rebecca? I asked. Claire froze for half a second. Tiny reaction. Enough. Jason's ex-wife, she answered. She is bitter. Bitter people rarely attach evidence. I opened the message thread again. Rebecca had already sent screenshots. Wire transfers. Deposit slips. Copies of cashier's checks. Jason Reed deposited money from Claire's hidden account into a startup consulting company registered under an LLC in Columbus 6 weeks earlier. The business address matched a mailbox rental inside a shipping store. Fake company. Temporary shell. Amateur structure. I zoomed in on the filing details. Jason listed himself as Chief Operations Officer. Claire appeared under Silent Investment Partner. 51% ownership. My stomach tightened slowly. Claire had planned a financial exit strategy while eating dinner across from me every night. You used marital funds to finance his company? I asked quietly. Claire grabbed her phone from the counter immediately. You went through my accounts? Her tone sharpened fast, steering toward outrage because panic already sat underneath it. Classic reversal tactic. Push the accusation back onto the other person before the numbers become the center of the conversation. I slid the paperwork back toward her. You opened a private account. You moved almost 50 grand. You attached the statement to a legal filing by accident. Her jaw flexed hard enough to show the muscle near her ear. Then she made another mistake. She smirked. Small. Arrogant. Jason understands leverage, she said. You understand overtime shifts. There it was again. That. Obsession with masculinity. Jason sold confidence like a used car salesman pushing chrome upgrades onto men drowning in debt. Claire bought the performance because performance looks exciting from a distance. Meanwhile, I spent 16 years building actual equity. Retirement accounts. Home ownership. Credit stability. Insurance coverage. Predictable income. The boring stuff people mock until life collapses. I walked toward my office beside the garage and pulled open the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Tax returns. Mortgage records. Investment summaries. Every major purchase from the last decade. Claire followed me halfway down the hall. What are you doing? She asked. Checking something. I laid the paperwork across the desk and started matching dates. Her hidden account opened 4 months after she pushed me to refinance the house under a lower interest structure. At the time, she claimed the lower payment would free cash for renovations. Now the timing looked surgical. Refinance. Pull liquidity. Redirect funds quietly. Position herself for divorce. I flipped through another stack and found the hellic paperwork. Home equity line of credit. $30,000 withdrawn 3 months ago. My signature sat at the bottom. Claire had prepared every page before I came home from a 70-hour workweek. You said the money went toward kitchen remodeling estimates, I said. Claire crossed her arms again. We were building a future. For who? That question finally hit her harder than the financial accusations. Her eyes shifted away first. Guilt always struggles under direct eye contact. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Rebecca. This one carried a PDF attachment labeled Emergency Custody Filing. I opened it slowly. Then I saw Jason Reed's full legal name highlighted beside a sentence that changed the entire situation. Active investigation for financial fraud involving investor misrepresentation and personal relationship coercion. I spent the next 3 hours at my office desk with a yellow legal pad, a calculator, and every financial document. Claire had underestimated me enough to leave inside the house. Betrayal changes the way a man reads. Paperwork. Dates stop looking like dates. They start looking like footprints. I lined up bank statements beside tax returns and traced the timeline backward. The hidden account opened 4 days after Claire attended a marketing conference in Chicago with Jason. 2 weeks later, she pushed for the home equity withdrawal. 1 month after that, she convinced me to liquidate part of an old brokerage account because she claimed kitchen contractors wanted cash deposits before locking pricing. Every move connected cleanly once I stopped viewing my marriage emotionally and started viewing it like an audit. Claire stood in the doorway for a while watching me work. You are acting insane, she said finally. I kept writing numbers beside transaction dates. You and Jason created a shell company with marital assets. It was an investment. Investments usually involve business licenses that survive more than 6 weeks. That hit harder than she expected. Her eyes narrowed immediately. Jason had probably sold her some fantasy about entrepreneurship and freedom. Men like him package ambition with motivational quotes and leased watches. They survive on confidence because confidence distracts people from documentation. I opened the LLC registration Rebecca sent me and checked the filing records through the state website. Jason used a temporary registered agent service. Cheap setup, high-risk structure. The kind of shortcut real operators avoid because courts tear through it during discovery. Claire stepped closer to my desk. Jason built something from nothing, she snapped. I finally looked up at her. Jason built an LLC from a mailbox. Silence spread across the room after that. Sharp silence. The kind that slices through fantasy. Claire grabbed her phone again and typed quickly. Messaging him. I recognized the behavior already. Every time pressure entered the room, she reached for Jason like he carried the answers. 5 seconds later, her expression shifted. Tiny panic. Tiny confusion. What? I asked calmly. Nothing. Another lie. Fast. Sloppy. I stood and walked past her toward the kitchen. Claire followed immediately now, energy changing from arrogance into agitation. You are twisting everything, she said. Jason understands risk. You just hide inside routines. I opened the refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of water, and studied her reflection against the dark microwave screen while she talked. Claire kept defending him with emotional language instead of factual language. That told me she still believed the performance. People trapped inside manipulation defend the manipulator harder once evidence surfaces because admitting the truth destroys their ego along with the relationship. My phone buzzed again. Rebecca, call me before your wife deletes anything. I answered immediately. Rebecca spoke like a woman who had spent months rehearsing the truth while nobody listened. Jason drains women financially, she said. He studies their marriages first. He targets insecurity. Claire probably thinks she is special. I glanced toward Claire standing near the island, arms tight against herself now instead of folded confidently. How many women? I asked. 3 confirmed. Maybe more. Papers shuffled on Rebecca's end. Then her voice hardened. Ethan, listen carefully. Jason already prepared an exit plan. He expects your wife to take the financial hit when federal investigators start tracing investor money. My grip tightened around the phone. Federal investigators? Wire fraud complaints crossed state lines last month. Jason moved money through multiple accounts tied to personal relationships. Claire's name already appears inside 2 complaints. I looked toward my office desk where the divorce paperwork still sat open beside Claire's hidden account statements. The entire power dynamic inside the marriage shifted right there. 15 minutes earlier, Claire believed she controlled the board. Now her face had turned pale because Jason finally stopped answering her texts. Then somebody knocked on the front door. 3 sharp knocks. Claire looked toward the entryway first. Fear hit her expression before either of us moved. I opened the front door expecting Jason. Claire expected him too. I saw it immediately in the way she straightened her posture and brushed hair behind her ear before the door even swung open fully. But the man standing on my porch wore a charcoal suit, carried a leather document case, and looked exhausted in the specific way attorneys look after cleaning up expensive disasters. Ethan Walker? He asked. Yes. He handed me a business card. Martin Feldman, corporate litigation attorney. My eyes moved from the card back to his face. I represent Jason Reed. Claire stepped forward instantly. Where is he? Feldman ignored her completely and focused on me instead. Mr. Walker, I strongly recommend you retain independent counsel before speaking further with your wife regarding shared financial activity. Shared financial activity. Clean legal wording. Dangerous wording. Claire's confidence collapsed another inch. What did Jason do? She asked sharply. Feldman finally looked at her. Miss Walker, Jason instructed me to inform you that all future communication should proceed through legal channels. Her face drained white. Legal channels? She repeated. You said he was in trouble, I said calmly. Feldman adjusted his grip on the document case. Federal subpoenas hit 3 financial institutions this afternoon. Several accounts tied to interstate investment solicitation triggered review. Solicitation. Review. Another lawyer sentence that translated into real trouble. Claire stepped closer toward him. Jason told me the business was fine. Feldman gave her the kind of look doctors give patients before bad diagnoses. Jason told multiple people many things. Then he pulled out a sealed envelope and handed it directly to me. This concerns potential exposure involving marital property and transferred funds linked to your household accounts. Claire tried grabbing the envelope first. I stepped sideways before her fingers reached it. Small movement. Small power shift. Huge emotional impact. Feldman noticed too. I advise you to read Section 4 immediately, he said. Especially the timeline regarding transferred assets. Then he turned and walked away without another word. Claire stared after him like the floor had tilted beneath her feet. 5 hours earlier, she walked into the kitchen believing she controlled every angle of our divorce. Now her secret partner had lawyered up and vanished behind legal representation. I carried the envelope into my office while Claire followed close behind me. Open it, she demanded. I sat at the desk slowly and broke the seal. Inside sat 32 pages of financial summaries, investor complaints, transfer authorizations, and email timestamps. Feldman's office had prepared a containment package. Jason already expected lawsuits. Maybe criminal exposure too. I flipped directly to Section 4. Claire leaned over my shoulder reading beside me until we both saw her name highlighted 3 separate times. No, she whispered under her breath. First transfer, $12,000 wired from her hidden account into Reed Strategic Ventures LLC. Second transfer, $18,000 routed through a cryptocurrency exchange account registered under a modified version of Claire's maiden name. Third transfer, $20,000 withdrawn from the Helic account and documented internally as operational bridge financing. My eyes narrowed immediately at the wording. Operational bridge financing implies formal business participation. Investor language. Structured intent. Claire grabbed the papers harder now, scanning faster with growing panic. Jason told me these were temporary transfers, she said. He said paperwork protected me. I kept reading. Then I found the line that changed everything. Internal communication indicates Miss Walker maintained awareness of potential misrepresentation involving investor return projections prior to secondary solicitations. I leaned back slowly in the chair. Claire covered her mouth with one hand. What does that mean? She asked quietly. I looked directly at her for the first time since the attorney left. It means Jason positioned you as a knowing participant. Her breathing shortened instantly. Real fear entered the room now. Not divorce fear. Not relationship fear. Legal fear. Financial ruin fear. The kind that strips away fantasy fast. My phone buzzed again beside the desk. Another message from Rebecca. He used the same structure on me. Check the final page. There should be one name missing. I turned to the last sheet slowly. Then I saw it. Every investor signature appeared in black ink except Jason Reed's. The missing signature changed the entire equation sitting on my desk. Jason structured the company so every layer of liability flowed downhill toward Claire while he floated above the paperwork like smoke. I read the operating agreement twice to make sure I understood what I was seeing. Claire signed as financial guarantor on 2 investor intake forms. Claire authorized account transfers. Claire verified projected returns in email correspondence. Jason signed almost nothing personally. He built distance between himself and every dangerous transaction. He said this protected both of us, Claire whispered. Her voice sounded smaller now. Fragile. The arrogance from the kitchen had vanished completely. I leaned back in my chair and studied her carefully. For the first time all night, I saw fear replacing fantasy in real time. Claire had spent months believing she escaped a boring marriage for a stronger man. Instead, she walked straight into a financial trap built by somebody who studied insecurity better than business law. He used your name because you had clean credit and stable assets, I said. He needed legitimacy. Claire shook her head slowly like the movement alone could erase the documents sitting between us. Jason loved me. Jason loved leverage. Silence hit harder after that sentence than any yelling ever could. Claire grabbed her phone again and called him directly. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Same result. Then she opened their text thread and started scrolling faster. Her breathing changed halfway through. Sharp inhale. Tight jaw. What? I asked. Claire looked up slowly. He deleted shared folders from the investor drive. That detail mattered. Fast cleanup means panic. Panic means exposure. I stood immediately and walked back to my office computer. Claire followed close behind now, staying near me instead of across from me. Another power shift. I logged into our shared home network and checked external access logs. Jason had remote login credentials through Claire's laptop. Last login, 43 minutes earlier. File deletion activity confirmed. 3 folders erased. Investor onboarding. Transfer. Summaries. Internal projections. Amateur criminals think deleting files destroys evidence. Real investigations follow timestamps, cloud sync records, metadata trails, and recovery snapshots. I opened the cloud backup history and started restoring archived versions quietly while Claire watched over my shoulder. "You can recover those?" she asked. "Most people erase visibility. Very few erase infrastructure." The restored folders began populating one by one. PDF contracts, recorded Zoom calls, investor spreadsheets. Then one file caught my eye immediately. Walker Asset Strategy.xlsx. My last name. I opened it slowly. Claire stepped closer beside me. The spreadsheet listed our home equity value, retirement accounts, insurance policies, vehicle titles, and estimated divorce settlement projections under multiple scenarios. Jason built financial models around my life like I was a business acquisition target. One tab carried the label Emotional Pressure Timeline. My stomach tightened while I opened it. Month 1. Increase emotional dissatisfaction. Month 2. Encourage masculine insecurity comparisons. Month 3. Initiate temporary separation discussions. Month 4. Secure HELOC transfer before legal filing. Month 5. Trigger emotional reaction to improve negotiation positioning during divorce mediation. Claire covered her mouth again as she read beside me. "Oh my God," she whispered. Her eyes moved down the spreadsheet until she reached the final line highlighted in yellow. Post-divorce asset deployment into Reed Strategic Ventures projected within 90 days. Jason planned the entire relationship like a hostile takeover. Every compliment, every argument, every comparison against me. Every staged emotional conversation. Structured pressure. Structured manipulation. Claire dropped into the chair beside my desk and stared blankly at the screen. "I thought he understood me," she said quietly. "He understood your access to capital." My phone buzzed again. New message from Rebecca. "Federal agents contacted me tonight. They already froze one account. If Claire signed anything else recently, you need to find it before morning." I turned toward Claire slowly. "Did you sign anything else for him?" Her face changed instantly. Then she looked toward the hallway closet near the garage. And that reaction told me everything before she even spoke. Claire walked toward the hallway closet slowly, like each step forced another layer of reality onto her shoulders. I followed close behind her while my mind kept replaying the spreadsheet Jason built around dismantling my life. Emotional pressure timeline. The phrase stayed lodged in my head because it explained every strange conversation from the last year. Every fight that escalated too fast. Every comparison meant to bruise my confidence. Jason engineered emotional instability the same way predators engineer financial dependency. Claire opened the closet door and reached behind a stack of storage bins. Her hands shook while pulling out a thin black portfolio case. Expensive leather. Jason probably picked it himself. She handed it to me without speaking. I carried it back into my office and unzipped it carefully. Inside sat 3 documents. A personal guarantee agreement, a secured collateral authorization form, and a life insurance beneficiary modification request with Jason Reed listed as temporary business protection beneficiary tied to investment obligations. I stared at the page for several long seconds. Then I looked up at Claire. "You added him to my life insurance?" Her face tightened immediately. "He said investors needed assurance." Investors? I flipped through the pages faster now. Jason structured protections around himself from every direction possible. If his company collapsed, Claire carried exposure. If legal claims surfaced, Claire appeared tied to asset movement. If something happened to me, Jason gained financial access through temporary beneficiary status connected to debt protection language hidden inside the policy modification. Clean. Predatory. Calculated. Claire sank into the chair across from my desk and buried her face in her hands. "I thought he trusted me with the business," she whispered. "He trusted you with the liability." I grabbed my phone immediately and called my insurance agent. 24-hour support line. Emergency modification freeze request. Identity verification. Fraud concern flag. The representative placed temporary restrictions on all pending changes while escalating the file to internal review. One move at a time. One leak sealed at a time. Claire watched me work in silence now. Earlier tonight, she saw me as weak because I lived through routines and structure. Now those same routines protected the house, the accounts, the policy, the future. Stability suddenly looked very different once chaos entered the room. I opened another folder from the portfolio and found a notarized authorization giving Reed Strategic Ventures limited operational access to a secondary brokerage account I barely remembered opening years ago. Small account, roughly $80,000 sitting in index funds. Claire signed the access form 2 weeks ago using power of attorney paperwork buried inside our refinancing documents. My stomach turned colder reading that section than anything else that night. Jason never chased romance. He hunted access points. How much did he know about our finances? I asked quietly. Claire answered without lifting her head. Everything. Honest answer. Finally, I logged into the brokerage portal immediately. Account balance displayed in red. Pending liquidation request initiated 6 hours earlier. Amount scheduled for transfer, $78,400. Destination account hidden behind internal processing hold. Claire looked up sharply once she saw the screen. He told me that money was moving into a protected business reserve. Jason moved it because he knows investigators are closing in. I called the brokerage fraud department immediately and started contesting the transfer authorization while Claire sat frozen beside the desk. Verification questions, timestamp reviews, escalation tickets, recorded dispute statements. The representative finally paused halfway through the process. Mr. Walker, she said carefully, your request reached us about 40 minutes before completion. Another hour, and those funds would have cleared into an offshore receiving institution. Offshore. Jason already prepared his exit route. Claire closed her eyes hard after hearing that word. Her fantasy about confident masculinity had transformed into a federal fraud pipeline inside one brutal night. Then another notification appeared on my monitor. New login attempt detected from an external device in Miami, Florida. Username, Jason, Reed, admin. I stared at the Miami login notification while Claire stood behind me frozen in silence. Jason moved fast because predators always sprint once their masks crack. He probably sat inside some hotel suite burning through backup plans while federal subpoenas spread through his accounts. The system timestamp showed he tried accessing the brokerage dashboard through an encrypted browser tunnel tied to a temporary Florida network. Sloppy move. Panic makes arrogant men careless. I locked the account completely and activated full fraud protection protocols across every linked institution. Brokerage, banking, credit bureaus, retirement accounts, mortgage servicing, one by one, methodical, precise. Claire watched the process like somebody witnessing surgery on a body she suddenly realized belonged partly to her. Can he still take the money? She asked quietly. Only if I stay passive. That answer lingered in the room longer than either of us expected. Because the truth hit deeper than finances. Claire spent years believing strength looked loud, aggressive, charismatic. Jason walked into rooms like he owned them. I walked into rooms carrying grocery lists, mortgage payments, tax folders, maintenance schedules, and overtime hours. One man sold fantasy. The other built infrastructure. Crisis exposes the difference fast. My phone rang again. Unknown federal number this time. I answered immediately. Mr. Walker? A woman asked. This is Special Agent Dana Mercer with the Financial Crimes Task Force. Your information surfaced inside an active interstate fraud investigation connected to Reed Strategic Ventures. Claire's eyes widened across the desk. I put the call on speaker deliberately. How exposed are we? I asked. Agent Mercer answered without hesitation. Your wife appears listed as a financial participant in several investor-facing transactions. We are still determining whether involvement stemmed from intent or manipulation. Claire lowered herself slowly into the chair beside my desk like her legs stopped trusting the floor beneath them. I never stole from anyone, she whispered toward the phone. Mercer's voice stayed calm and clinical. Intent matters. Documentation matters more. That sentence landed like a hammer. I understood it instantly because paperwork never cares about feelings. Jason understood that too. He structured every layer around plausible deniability while Claire signed forms emotionally instead of strategically. Mercer continued. Mr. Walker, one more issue concerns us. Your life insurance modification request triggered an internal alert this evening. Claire's head snapped toward me immediately. Alert? I asked. Temporary beneficiary changes connected to high-value investment disputes often indicate asset shielding attempts. Combined with accelerated liquidation requests and interstate transfers, the pattern raised flags. I leaned back slowly while the full picture finally assembled in my head. Jason never planned to build a future with Claire. He built financial escape routes around her identity. If investigators closed in, Claire absorbed exposure while he disappeared with liquid assets. What happens next? I asked. We freeze associated accounts by morning, Mercer said. We also recommend your wife retain independent criminal counsel immediately. Criminal counsel. Claire looked physically sick hearing those words. Earlier tonight, she stood in my kitchen comparing me to another man like masculinity revolved around excitement and dominance. Now the same man had turned her into legal insulation against federal scrutiny. The call ended after Mercer requested copies of the documents I recovered from the cloud backups. I emailed everything immediately. Every spreadsheet. Every transfer log. Every deleted folder snapshot. Claire watched me quietly through the entire process. No anger left now. No superiority. Just shock and regret spreading across her face inch by inch. Then her phone finally buzzed. Jason. First response in hours. Claire grabbed the device instantly and opened the message. Her expression changed so sharply I already knew. Whatever she read carried another layer of betrayal. Read it, I said calmly. Claire swallowed hard before speaking. He says I need to stay loyal if anybody asks questions. I held her gaze across the desk. What else? Her eyes filled slowly while she kept reading further down the screen. He says if I panic and cooperate with investigators, he will release private recordings of our conversations to the media and investors. The room went completely still after that. Then Claire whispered the sentence that finally shattered whatever remained of her fantasy. He recorded everything. Claire sat across from me holding her phone with both hands like the device itself had turned radioactive. Her entire body had changed over the course of one night. Hours earlier, she carried herself like somebody stepping into a better future. Now she looked trapped inside a collapsing structure she helped build without understanding the foundation underneath it. He said the recordings were for business protection, she whispered. Every manipulator calls surveillance protection. I reached for the phone slowly. Let me see the message thread. Claire hesitated for half a second before handing it over. That hesitation mattered. Shame had entered the room now. I opened the conversation and started scrolling upward carefully. Hundreds of messages. Emotional bait. Financial pressure. Ego reinforcement. Jason studied her constantly. Every insecurity became leverage later. I recognized the pattern immediately once I stopped reading like a husband and started reading like an engineer troubleshooting system failure. Jason rewarded rebellion against me. Whenever Claire criticized our marriage, he amplified it. Whenever she questioned finances, he redirected her toward entitlement. Whenever guilt surfaced, he reframed loyalty as weakness. One message stopped me cold. You deserve a man who builds empires, not a guy who clocks overtime and organizes garage shelves. Claire stared at the floor while I read silently beside her. Jason sold identity transformation disguised as romance. He made stability feel embarrassing and recklessness feel powerful. Another message appeared lower in the thread. Start collecting copies of Ethan's retirement statements now. Quietly. My jaw tightened harder reading that line than anything else all night. Jason coached her step by step through financial extraction while pretending to understand her emotionally. Then I reached the audio file attachments. 27 recordings. Time-stamped over 6 months. Some lasted 5 minutes. Others lasted nearly an hour. Claire covered her face once she saw me open the folder. I thought he deleted them after listening, she said softly. Predators archive leverage. I clicked one file briefly. Claire's voice filled the office speakers immediately. Crying. Complaining about our marriage. Repeating private arguments. Financial details. Insurance information. Home equity numbers. Jason barely spoke during most recordings. He guided conversations carefully like somebody collecting usable intelligence instead of participating emotionally. I stopped playback after 20 seconds. Enough. Claire looked physically ill now. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered. You meant for divorce to happen, I answered calmly. You just expected safety on the other side. That sentence hit because it was true. Claire never prepared for danger. She prepared for excitement. Jason prepared for exploitation. My phone buzzed again. Agent Mercer. I answered immediately. We traced Reed through Miami 30 minutes ago, she said. Then he disappeared again through a secondary transfer route. Can you stop him? I asked. Maybe. but we need cooperation from everyone attached financially. Her emphasis landed directly toward Claire sitting across from me. Mercer continued. One more issue surfaced tonight. Reed attempted to open a secured line of credit using your wife's identity 2 hours ago. Claire looked up sharply. What? Mercer's voice stayed steady. Application included your marital address, social security information, and falsified income declarations. Identity fraud now. Jason had started cannibalizing the same woman he convinced to betray her marriage. Claire grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. How much? She asked quietly. Mercer paused briefly before answering. Requested amount totaled $300,000. Claire's breathing shortened instantly. I understood why. 300,000 crossed beyond emotional betrayal into total financial destruction. Jason planned to leave her buried under debt while he escaped through offshore accounts and proxy identities. Mercer lowered her voice slightly before ending the call. Mr. Walker, your wife still has one advantage if she acts quickly, which is, Jason trusted her enough to expose operational habits. I looked toward Claire slowly after the call disconnected. She already understood where my mind went next. Every manipulator leaves patterns behind eventually. Password habits, backup locations, storage routines, escape plans. Claire wiped tears from her face and stared directly at me for the first time in hours. Then she said the sentence that changed the balance again. I know where Jason keeps the real files. Claire kept the external drive hidden in a shoebox beneath winter blankets in the guest room closet. Jason had told her the backups were investor protection files in case banks froze accounts. And even after everything collapsed, she still sounded ashamed repeating it. I plugged the drive into my office computer while Agent Mercer stayed on speakerphone. The directory opened instantly. No password. Another arrogant mistake. Men like Jason mistake manipulation for intelligence until pressure makes them careless. Folder after folder filled the screen. Investor lists, recorded calls, identity scans, offshore routing instructions, and spreadsheets ranking women by vulnerability, liquidity, credit score, and marital friction. My stomach tightened. Claire had not fallen into a romance. She had entered a pipeline. Mercer said, "Open the contingency folder." 32 PDFs appeared. Fake consulting contracts, shell account maps, legal statements blaming unauthorized partners, and Claire's name repeated beside language assigning her responsibility. Jason had built his escape hatch with her identity nailed across it. Claire sat beside me, crying silently, looking like someone finally seeing the cage after mistaking it for devotion. Then I found the file titled Walker Divorce Timeline Final. Jason had mapped everything. Destabilize Ethan emotionally, pressure asset concessions, isolate Claire through shared business growth, transfer liquid reserves offshore, then terminate relationship after migration. Claire covered her mouth at the last line. Terminate relationship. No love. No future. Just extraction. We can use this, Mercer said. Claire asked, am I going to prison? Mercer answered, cooperation changes outcomes. Intent, documentation, and timing matter. Claire lowered her eyes. I will cooperate. For 2 hours, I exported files, froze accounts, and documented every transfer Jason tied to our household. Near dawn, Mercer called back. We located Reed at a private airfield outside Miami. He tried boarding a charter under a false identity. We detained him, but before agents reached the runway, he uploaded a data package to media contacts, investors, and private accounts. Claire turned white. What was inside? Mercer exhaled. That is what we are trying to determine.